And welcome back to the second race of the Fuji Round World Super Tourers Season 3. And at the end of the last race, what we neglected to mention was that the title had been decided at the end of that race. A maximum of 32 points could be had, and therefore, with the positions in play and where Webber finished in that race, he is effectively clear of any misgivings in this round. Jimmy Webber is going to run with the number one for season 4. We have a race to go though, so this will be a bit more subdued. Despite the clouds threatening something, we are going to be looking at the radar throughout. Everyone in the pits has pretty much said, it's going to be dry, and I think Swinney can vouch for that once again. But I'm pretty sure you have your doubts as well that there might be some level of precipitation, shall we say, for race 2.
Yeah, well, as I said, our weather radars are definitely saying no, no rain, you'll be totally fine. But I mean, look at those clouds, man, and with the altitude and everything, the wind can change direction pretty quickly. So it's very much a case of I'm not expecting rain, but never say never.
And the locals will be happy with the front row of Toyota and Honda. Butcher on pole, front wheel drive alongside. But as you see, it's a rear wheel drive, third, fourth, and fifth, and they're going to swamp Lammers already. Fia Schneider already up to second and being punted by Fisichella through Daiichi in turn 1. That's the sort of drama we expected in race 1. Looks like everyone's still pointing in the right direction, of course.
Good lord, everyone decided to have a mosh pit at turn 1, apparently. Poor old Butcher got mugged out of 2 spaces because of it.
All cars running clean. I mean, we saw the Tamiya Honda having to run the spare. They've wrapped that in the Tamiya logos for race 2. Lammers back to 5th. Thompson up to 6th.
At the moment we've got some formation flying here, 2 Hondas and then 2 Fords, although Wirtz has just split those, though Polo is going back at them. Once again, Ford versus Volkswagen into the chicane, and more rallycross happening.
Easy Duma in the DHL Alpha.
As well as Camish there in the 3M Ford, having a good showing in his final outing for that Ford, of course, because he's joining me in a Mazda next year.
Therefore, a different climate, a different attitude. What hasn't been a very memorable career in at least 2 seasons. Top 10 finish should be enough to keep Ryan happy.
Yeah, although he does have Sabine Whitman right there, as well as Suarez. So there's a pair of quick cars behind him. He'll have his work cut out trying to keep them behind him.
But for this time, he definitely has. As Whitman tries to do a Fisichella impersonation onto the Suarez Volkswagen.
Not quite that time. Looks like Butcher's just being a bit of a cork in the bottle at the minute, with all the Fords and Hondas tripping over each other.
Well, we saw Ford, Honda and Volkswagen all close together. It hasn't changed for this race despite the reverse grid. Schneider still leads. Webber up to 3rd. Title in the bag. Still a good look for, even if BMW have clinched the Constructors.
Well, as we said in the final round of the European Super Tours, BMW just asserting their dominance. They've already won, and now this is just a statement to the rest of the field that they've still got it and they're still going to push.
There is some level of BMW sales in Japan, so it'll be a good look for them too.
Yeah, the Japanese do like a German car. because it's the only thing sort of on par with their own domestic stuff. So it's seen over here as like, if you want something a bit different, which is odd to say coming from someone who lives in a country where German cars make up about 80% of the traffic you'll see on public roads.
Shut down to fourth with Lammers. There's your front row. Webb hammering in the first of the flying fastest laps, and I don't think that's set to change for a good couple of laps. Lammers down the inside of Butcher.
Yeah, he wants that position back. He's currently the first of the front wheel drive brigade, and he wants to start making a dent on the rear wheel drives in front of him.
Coca-Cola 2x2. Okay, maybe not. Thought that was going to happen for both Lammers Butcher and the Palou Thompson battle.
Butcher needs to be careful now that he doesn't just get completely freight trained by all of these front wheel drive cars.
That is some crocodile all the way back to E-Day's Toyota throughout the hairpin. Points paying positions, almost in the same shot. Ingram's last hurrah in the Mazda.
Yeah, it doesn't quite have the straight line speed to keep up around here, unfortunately. So I mean, it's disappointing to say, but we kind of are on damage limitation a little bit. We are, you know, we're chasing an independence title here. So we would like some points just to really seal that deal, but...
Well, if you think about it, I mean, I'm looking at the points here. Mathematically, it's highly unlikely that either Tamiya or DHL are going to get that in this race. It would have to be like almost if someone was to hack the entire system to get that DHL or Tamiya car to the front of the field, while everyone else just decides to retire on the spot.
Yeah.
That's the sort of...
Yeah, I'll start panicking when I see all the works cars.
Sorry, Salo had a massive surge weaving between the Toyota and the Honda of Butcher and Salo. That was probably the best move we saw, even if it didn't completely land in Palou's favour. Butcher still... Salo's favour. Butcher still 6th, and that's probably one of the best onboard shots we'll see all year.
Yeah, Salo definitely threaded the needle there. Had a good go, but Butcher was able just to get a very textbook crossover move back on him again. He'll have to just wait until the start-finish straight next time by in order to try that again. But Butcher has already pulled out a bit of a gap here on Salo. Salo now essentially having to mirror drive to make sure Thompson doesn't have a crack at him.
So the midfield party is in full swing for the end of the season, with stuff like that happening. Schneider still leads Fisichella and Webber. That's been your consistent top 3 throughout the year. Not
so as you say that.
Order. Yeah, Webber now up to P2.
It's so now a BMW 1-2, just like the European series. The statement is being made again.
Not exactly BMW's mission statement, but it's going to look good nonetheless for them. If it doesn't look good for the entertainment value of a championship, in fairness, we have had a decent spread of wins. I mean, it's not like, I mean, if anything, this is going to be the 4th time BMW win this season, despite that assertive assertion of dominance. If that's a word, it is now.
Oh, it is now, yeah. Right, here we go again.
Not going to get the title from Webber.
Attempt 2 from Salo.
And there's the dirt right there, round the outside of Lammers. Here's Palou's move.
And then there's Salo. He's got the move stuck this time on the Toyota.
Is Lammers going to have a say on the exit of Coca-Cola through 100R? One of the more traditional turns hasn't been augmented that much from its traditional layout. Here's the hairpin.
And given the gap between Fisichella here and Palou, I think this Palou-Lammers battle is really just for the honorary title of first of the front-wheel drives. I don't necessarily see them catching the top 3 anytime soon. Especially if they keep squabbling with each other. They're only going to make that gap bigger.
Butcher down to 7th. Thompson is 8th with Wurtz, 9th. Suarez, the 2 Volkswagens, propping up your top 10. Gap to Kamish and Wittmann. Wittmann's not really made any inroad at all here. Still got Dumas in that very well presented Privateer Alpha.
Yeah, they've had a bit of an up and down year themselves. I think they're still getting to grips with that car.
Kobayashi's secondary year as a Privateer driver. I mean, we could say it's a fluke win if it was at the start of the year. If this is his average finish for the rest of the season, but still, points paying position, showing up a departing Toyota team in Kazuki Ide.
Yeah, I think that win at the start of the year, I think the only fluke involved was just due to the reverse grid ruling. I think that really proved that Kobayashi does have the speed in him, and that team know how to get it done. They just struggle with qualifying and then struggle with the traffic. And those two aspects really put the kibosh on a lot of their race weekends. Though, I have heard for next year they are due an upgrade from FK8 Civic to FL5 Civic. So they will be in the same equipment, or the same model of Honda, as the works cars. So in theory, they should stand to do even better next year. In theory.
I reckon they got an extra 5 places out of that newer version of the car, perhaps, but it just depends how well the likes of Volkswagen and the other manufacturer efforts, including Volvo's attempt at the Worlds.
Yeah, in talking to the Volvo drivers, they're confident the car's got some speed. There's a few little foibles that need working out with it, but drivers, race engineers, they all seem fairly confident that they can get it fixed. Maybe not necessarily in time for the start of the season, but they can certainly use the early race weekends as the learning experience. And the team's going in with sort of very humble opinion in that regard, in that they are just going to use a lot of the next season as a learning curve for them.
So there's your current podium with the next 50% of the race to go. Schneider ahead of Webber. I doubt that team orders will be necessary. Webber still has the fastest flying lap from lap 2. No improvement from anyone else in the field. Still, I mean, we were worried about the clouds earlier. We've got some sunshine now, so this should be boding well for the final 4.5 laps. 5.5 laps. But we're still on edge here ourselves. If that does come to fruition. Butcher down to 9th now.
Yeah, he's been mugged by the Golfs at some point. We missed that happening. I dare say it was turn 1 shenanigans again. And he's now having to defend from Thompson. Butcher started on pole this race. He's going to be rather annoyed with this one, I feel.
And I think this is perhaps one of the reasons why Toyota are trying to get to grips with a new car on home soil rather than display it to the whole of the world. If this is going to happen again, perhaps this race, I suppose, has been a scaled down version of how their entire campaign in the last 2 seasons has gone with that Toyota.
Oh, absolutely.
That Crown Athlete.
Flashes of speed, but mostly middling results. And a car that has been their biggest problem. This is something I learned recently from talking to Butcher about this. Their biggest problem is the way that the turbo, or the point of the rev range that the turbo spools up on, as Thompson has a look down the inside. Battle of the Brits in the different Japanese cars, not quite there. Yeah, the way the turbo spools is it kicks in at the wrong point coming out of slow speed corners, so they end up with on-power oversteer and wheel spin right at the point that they don't want it.
And you just thought that Toyota, with all their experience, would have found a workaround to that, if that's what it's been like for the entirety of this season, unless the focus, pun not intended, is the one brand of course, to put that onto the Corolla instead.
Well, the Corolla is their newer model, and it is sort of their flagship model in not out and out sports cars, but you know, that's their touring car for the road, so to speak. No, Butcher now having a crack at Suarez, trying to make something back.
Still trying to make the effort. Suarez, not the capitulation we've seen of old, but the results have been a bit mild for Suarez in his second year at Volkswagen. It's his third year all round.
Of course, he started at Honda, if I remember rightly. And a lot of people were questioning why Honda hired a complete unknown rookie from Mexico as and when they did it.
Much in the same way they've hired Nicky Lammers, who's put in flashes of brilliance. Hasn't won, but top 5 potentially at the end of the year. Only potentially 39 points away from his own teammate in 4th place in the championship. Honda, know who to pick. It's just will they have someone with with championship material if that happens again? I mean, Thompson, yes, but the BMW and Alpha rivalry has kind of inspired their attempt to get the championship. Honda, not necessarily on the back foot, but just not getting the luck or the performance that BMW and Alpha have had this season and last.
Yeah, Lammers has done his job fantastically well. Coming in to a works team as a rookie, you know, all he needed to do was learn, support Thompson, try and do as much for the team as possible, and that's exactly what he's done.
Which still puts him above Sabine Wittmann if the points work out the way they are right now. Wittmann is only going to get the scraps in the bottom of the 15 places it needs to be for points. Kamish is going to get 1 more point than the previous year's champion.
It's not been Whitman's year at all. That change in race engineer at the beginning of the season, I think, really hurt them a lot more than they intended to.
2 to go. Side-by-side battle between Butcher and Thompson. Thompson gets that almost done, but we've seen side-by-sides before on the run up to Coca-Cola. It looks like Thompson's got it, unless Butcher's going to have a look. Suarez is still trying to threaten Lammers with a move as well. The same could be said for the 4 in front, because you've got Wirtz, you've got the 2 Fords and the Alpha, which has started to fall back now. You'd have thought they'd get involved with the 2 BMWs, but they have just, I mean, we said it in the Euros with the M2. They've been on a much more upgraded hymn sheet for this final race. Whilst it's meant to be a sort of more relaxed final race if the titles have been decided, BMW have just put the work in, and the party effectively should only begin when everyone's completed the final lap, I suppose, in their eyes. We now have a Ford 3rd and 4th, because Alfa Fisichella, I think that's the tyres saying that they've given up. You can see that it looks like Wirtz is going to get 5th by the end of the race, if this is how it looks, from what I'm assuming. It's overcast again. Well, yeah, I'm not... let me put my hand on you.
Yeah, that was one very unfortunate freight train that Fisichella was just victim to there. Just got completely mugged by both the Fords and both the heavy braking zones over the course of the lap. And where we had an all rear-wheel drive podium, we've now got Palou leading the charge of the fronties in third. Which, given that he won race 1, that's incredibly good going.
It's still going to be dry for this, the final lap then. Vert's down the inside of Fisichella's still 5th. But some power section to go for both of the Volkswagens. And despite the BMWs up front, we're going to see Volkswagen and Ford being in the top 6 at the start of the weekend and at the end of the weekend as well, if Fisichella's tyres have actually given up the ghost here.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it before that the Alfa tends to struggle in traffic. So I think as soon as the first Ford got around him, it was a bit of a death sentence for poor old Fisichella there in that Alfa, who has, you know, to his credit, put together an incredibly solid season and has been Alfa Romeo's charge for the driver's title this year. He's always just been there or thereabouts within the top 10, which is, you know, what you need to do.
Same boats for the wins, because what you're going to see now is Alfa with 4 wins, Renault with 4 wins, and BMW with 4 wins this season. Schneider's going to get her second. Race over, photo shot across the line. That's going to be a good advert for back in Bavaria. Ford will be very happy with that performance. Fisichella still manages to fight for 5th, but it still means Fisichella is going to be 3rd in the championship, behind the 2 BMWs. Here's the remaining points, and well, E-Day is going to get the last of them before his decision gets made. Ingram was right at the back, but still not enough to get into the points. And well, what can we say about Renault? We've seen them get 2 wins, but they've had the biggest drop in performance throughout the season, compared to almost like a reverse of what BMW suffered with in season 2. But obviously their heads are held incredibly high. They finally got the 1 and 2 for season 4 on the side of their cars. Better race, shall we say. Still a bit subdued nonetheless, Sonny.
Yeah, absolutely. Just, you know, nice, tidy. Well, apart from the race, the Turn 1 shoving match, that was a very nice, tidy race just to round out the season there.
And thankfully, the rain has held off, and we might not even see that for after the podium ceremony. I think, well, this one has been a sort of quiet one because we were expecting more news to be had to give you a glimpse into what's going to happen for season 4 in the Worlds, what's going to happen for season 2 in the Euros, and what's going to happen for the inaugural Japanese series that we are going to broadcast. I'm trying to go through my list here. I think we have covered everything to a degree, Swinny. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, we've got Toyota leaving, going to the Japanese series using the Corolla. We've got Volvo coming in to replace them. I've done a deal with Mazda to run in a works Mazda team in the Euro series. I'm taking Kamish with me. I've got a fantastic young German driver called Ellen Frentzen joining him in the second car. I think that's everything for now that I'm aware of.
What's going to be your expectations then for what's your specific expectations for the Mazda Euro effort then? Is it just education, not expecting any wins, or?
We're using the Mazda 3 from this year, right? So we've got one car with 1 year's worth of dev on it, and then we've got a second brand new car showing up that we've built. Yeah, it's going to be a learning curve for us running a works team and running 2 cars. So really, like, our realistic goal is we just want to beat the privateers. We just want to be within the works, the factory space. So if we can beat the privateers, that's a good start. If we can get ahead of some of the other factory teams, that would be brilliant. We'll have to see. Despite Peugeot's struggles this year, I know they've got a big performance package coming for their RCZ, so they might not be as much of a pushover as we've seen them be this year.
And, well, it's going to be hard to predict what's going to happen in Japan, because not only are there going to be World Super Touring spec cars in there, there's going to be four-wheel drive spec in there as well.
Toyota with the Corolla, which is the GR Corolla, so that's four-wheel drive. You've got Subaru showing up with an Impreza. You've got Mazda showing up with a four-wheel drive Mazda 3. There are others. There's a privateer team who've got hold of a pair of Mitsubishi Lancers. You've got Genesis, so Hyundai's luxury brand that they've just started. The Genesis G70 is a four-wheel drive car, so that's going to be showing up. There's a lot of four-wheel drive, and this is a bit of an out of left field one, but Mercedes have confirmed an entry with a pair of four-wheel drive A-classes, because the AMG version is all-wheel drive.
How fresh is that news? Because I mean, I've been slow to react to that one.
Yeah, that dropped this week, so that's understandable.
And you'd expect Mercedes to put something rear-wheel drive on the table for at least the Euros or even the Worlds, but the fact that they're getting some four-wheel drive in an area of the world they don't really market in that well. We've seen them take part in, well, there was one race back in the 90s where Mercedes, Opel and Alfa went to Suzuka, but there was no real fan base for them. Much like you'd see Honda and Toyota here, with their sort of almost cosplay atmosphere in the paddock, in the stands, in the autograph sessions. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, with Genesis, I'm assuming that the crossover between the Hyundai that's in the Euros, this is a different team altogether.
Yes, absolutely. As it is, whilst Genesis is owned by Hyundai, it is their luxury brand, just as Lexus is to Toyota. It's still a separate car manufacturer. It's still a separate factory effort,
and looks totally different to the Hyundai we see in the Euros as well. And we'll just have to put some final words in now for, well, it's been a very good privateer season, not just for Ingram, because he's claimed the Drivers' Privateer Championship, 24 points ahead of Olivier Dumas, but also that means it's a 24-point gap between the Swintech Teams title and a joint second between Tamiya and DHL. You must be very pleased with that outcome.
Absolutely. I knew hiring Ingram would pay dividends, and he's gone and won a privateer title in his first ever season, so that's really good going. And it's a shame we're not keeping him for the Euro effort, but we'll see him here in the Worlds. I know exactly what he's driving, and I can't wait to reveal that one. But that is embargoed until the pre-season event that we put on. And I know for a fact he's signed with the privateer team that's running the Mitsubishi Lancers in the Japanese series. So we'll see plenty of him, even if I personally won't.
And we've said a lot about how BMW have handled this championship. And when we say handled, they've grabbed this by the horns. It's Webber's drivers win by 39 points ahead of Sophia Schneider in the second of the BMWs, which pretty much guaranteed the manufacturer title by some margin. I think that's going to be 91 points ahead of Alfa. It kind of says it all in Alfa's attempt to defend the title, perhaps, but much more in BMW's attempt to do one better than they have done in the previous two seasons.
Oh, absolutely. Alfa Romeo, unfortunately, just completely hamstrung themselves with a series of bad finishes at the beginning of the year. And the way the point system works is you can't really afford to do that. Or if you do, you have to go on a complete tear and get max points in other rounds to make up that difference.
And I mean, even if the title for the Drivers' Championship in sort of in sights need to say, oh, BMW ran away with it. If we look at the wins throughout the season, no driver won more than, if they won, they either won 2 races or only won 1 race. Nobody has really been dominant this season. It's just that BMW have been smart enough to play the long game, and I don't think anyone else really had.
Yeah, this really proves consistency is key. Consistency is everything. BMW, I'm pretty sure between the two of them have probably got more top 10 finishes than everybody else, which has given them the points they need here.
And yeah, well, we'll have to end it there. Been a very good season. I can't wait to get a glimpse of what's going to happen with the Japanese Championship. We might not get to cover the Euros, but we'll try and give you the news on that throughout the weekends where we are doing both Worlds and Japanese duty. I highly doubt we're going to be seeing double weekends, which will be a bit of a relief to some of us in the pit lane, myself included. Maybe we'll have to see how Swinney feels throughout the weekends, where he's putting on not only the Euro effort but also commentating with us for season 4 of the Worlds and the inaugural Japanese Supers next year. Looking forward to it, Swinney.
There is one double header weekend for the Worlds and the Japanese, and it's this time next year at this track. So we're going to see both titles be decided on the same weekend.
Let's hope it's dry, and we shall have to see you then. Good racing, everyone. Sayonara.